Cool. So I'm with my friend Doovid, Jewish guy. He's in America. You know, I meant to ask you, where are you in Dearborn, Michigan?
I'm in a place called Southfield, Michigan, which is um, bordering. I mean, it doesn't directly border. Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman, represents both districts. I heard E. Michael Jones mention his son is in Dearborn. Um, I mean, I'd meet up and have a coffee with him or something, but it's about a 15 minutes from Dearborn. There's a Jewish section of Metro Detroit where probably like 80% of the Jews live. Um, that's about
Dearborn, Michigan is that famous place with like the most Muslims in the whole of America or something.
the biggest mosque. Yeah, yeah. I mean that, and now there's another place also, Hamtramck, that you had the first city council. One of the first Muslim mayors. Although Dearborn's a big place, like in Dearborn was like the home of Henry Ford and Ford Motor Company. So it was a slow change, and so there's been pushback, and at the center of cultural the because Dearborn was one of the first places, the biggest places, and now there I don't know how many there's probably hundreds of thousands. I mean Dearborn, I don't even know if it might only have like I don't even know how many people. It might only have like 100, 200,000 people, but in the area, and there's huge mosques. I think the biggest mosque in America is in Metro Detroit. And I mean, there's Ahmadiyya's here too. So Detroit's on the map. If you're Muslim and looking to move to America, lower cost of living than New York, or, so it's on the map, although it's still within an African American majority. So like parts of Dearborn,
Interesting.
um, so like essentially you're living amongst the African American majority. So both Arabs and Jews are minorities among an African American majority until you get further enough out into the suburbs where
So
it
do you
starts becoming
bump into a
mostly
lot of
white.
Muslims?
The what?
Do you bump into, are there a lot of, are you surrounded by a lot of Muslims in your area? Or you're not
In
in that
my,
particular, you're neighboring that area, are you?
I mean, there's a Muslim private school half a mile from me. In my particular neighborhood, I don't know any Muslims on my block, although they said it's almost like 90% African American. There's a few Chaldeans, which are Iraqi Christians, and Jews, and
And do
then
you
you get
have any problems with the Muslims?
no, I mean almost none, never. I'm saying like there's
Being a Jew, they recognize you as a Jew. Do you go with the, what's your hat
I go
called
my
again?
yarmulke everywhere and saying like Muslims are
Yarmulke,
usually
yeah.
very respectful. I go into Dearborn occasionally to a vegetarian restaurant, like when I was in university. But I mean, you bump into Arabs and Muslims in any setting, like where like at school there's Muslim teachers. Uh, Although I don't know if there's some African American. I have African American
I mean,
Muslim
you know why
students.
I'm asking? Because people
But
imagine there's always clashes between Islam and everything else. And generally, like I was in London where we'd have vigorous discussions in Speaker's Corner in London. It's a famous place where people really debate, and there were Jews there, there were Muslims there, and they respect each other. I mean, as long as they weren't being like I would say they wouldn't the Jews generally would be respected. There was one highly Zionist
there's very
person.
little
Yeah.
intergroup conflict between Jews and Muslims. Although on a political level, Jews have largely outmaneuvered politicians and getting Democratic politicians to be in support of Israel. And there's pro-Palestinian protests and the
Yeah.
different sentiment on international policy. There's been a few acts of graffiti
I'm
against
just mainly just because
Jewish
I'm just
businesses,
asking
but no,
because I never
I
asked
have
you
not
this.
heard of a
Uh,
single case of violence between Jews and Arabs really in my lifetime. There
really.
was one case of a crazy man who got a Arab man who got arrested and for threatening a synagogue. It's the only one I could hear of, and like he
And he
was
was insane or something, was he?
well, I mean, he had mental issues, but it's the only time
Yeah.
in the Arab
Yeah.
community. He's in prison. The Arab community did not defend him to that extent.
Yeah.
His own parents were. It's like I got my start
His
in
own
inner.
parents were against him or disappointed in his behavior if he did that.
Let me say that wasn't how they raised him. They that to hate Jews, and they thought
Cool.
it was more some mental instability rather than a hatred of Jews. So I mean, although he went to a synagogue and sent some threats and maybe was like buying guns or saying things on the internet, his parents,
Yeah.
like they said they didn't raise him. There was no one that he was speaking on behalf, and it seemed that he did have mental difficulty. Although he is in prison. He's still in prison.
Wow.
Um, Detroit is Arab, so like there's more Muslims in New York City, and I got my start in interfaith in Borough Park, which is right next to the largest Muslim community in the U.S., but it's not Arab in the same way as there's. I think there's more Arabs in Dearborn, as where in New York City there's more Muslims, but they're not all Arab. And even in Detroit,
Mixed.
there's not as many of the non-Arab uh, Islamics represented. Like Detroit's the Arab place, like the Arab Muslims come here. I mean, there's other types here also,
Wow.
but it's
Interesting.
mostly the Arabs. Like so, New York, you had right next to each other, and like literally, like I mean, there like people don't realize that there's no white people. Like so, you have like the only white people there are. I
Where
mean,
are
you
there
have
not
Polish.
white people?
Well, I mean, Jews are the white people. Like in Brooklyn,
No, but
Jews are
where are there not white people? I lost what you were saying.
in in uh, in Detroit, in New York City.
And
There's
New
very
York
few,
City.
there's very few white people in American urban areas. So like if you're in New York City, whites only represent like 20% of the people, or if they
Wow.
do like Jews or other like Greeks or Italians, like the
Maybe
Anglos.
that's happening in London. I didn't really think of it
I mean,
that
it's
way.
like that in London.
Honestly.
I mean, also like Paris. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's been like that for years. So he's thinking you have ethnic neighborhoods in Brooklyn right next to each other, which is the Hasidic community, Yiddish speaking, right next to I forget Bangladeshi. Or, I mean, there's some Arabs that there's hundreds of thousands of Muslims where English is the second language. They all have their private schools and mosques and their
Yeah.
businesses, and they literally border on each other. The Jewish and the Hasidic neighborhoods. There's very little violence, often employment, although people largely stick to their own. Saying like they have different stores and people, I mean, might occasionally, or the men might do business with each other. There's some mutual distrust among, but there's almost no conflict. There's like there's almost in the 10 years I was in Brooklyn, it was almost unheard of a fight between a Muslim, an Arab, and a Jew. And one
Wow.
thing that's just not the way Muslims and Jews do things. So I mean, if you think
Yeah.
like African
We're not
Americans,
brought up that way.
Hispanics, well, it's not. Yeah, I mean, there's protest or anti-Israel sentiment, but it's not like Muslim kids aren't known for like being dangerous on the street, or maybe in London or different
Mm.
places. But even in Brooklyn, whatever the case was, but they had community representatives. So usually, if there was some sort of dispute, it would be resolved through community representatives, and I would have been kind of like a mediator, translator to like the guy on the street. Like I'm not like the assistant to the rabbi who might,
Oh
speak to the
wow,
people and
really? I
get
didn't
the
know. In New
information.
York, you had that kind of community position.
Well, it wasn't an official position. It just would come up because like I it was really in among the Hasidim they call it like off the derek because I already started going to school, was a little bit less religious than the others. Um, like I spoke in English as opposed to Yiddish as the first language. I mean, it could be
No
just pure
way.
translational from Yiddish. I mean, it'd be like that in London too. Like there's a certain
No.
element, like
Maybe actually, you're right. Yeah.
well, I mean, in Stanford Hill, the elite
Oh, for the
decision
Jews.
making
Yeah.
of the community is not conducted in English.
Wow.
So if there was a Muslim leader who needed to speak to the leader of the Hasidic community, those people they might speak English, but they internally they speak in Yiddish,
Wow.
and so like if they sent someone like me, I guess that they just trusted to accurately convey their message, it was more as a translator, or just kind of like even within the Muslim, um, like people have big families, they're busy, they're not going to waste their time. So like you don't expect like people to actually meet. They send emissaries and they shake hands and then it gets
Yeah.
settled. So like if there's a
Cool.
business or two people get in a dispute, the rabbis hear of it, they might talk on the phone. If they come to some sort of monetary settlement, if it was actually a dispute or some sort of legal settlement where it's a decision to not go to court or take it to law, and then you just have someone like me that would, you know, go to meet the Muslim side and shake their hands, and
Yeah.
that'd be it. So I mean, really,
Right.
like I just, and it wasn't an official type thing. I was just a guy around who was
The
a
guy
little.
that often be called for that kind of thing, and you just be kept like you've done
Well,
it
I mean,
before, and you.
Muslims the same. Like in the say, if you're Hasidic, like you, I mean, it's almost cultish. So like if you've shaved one time in your life, like if you're on the inside in the Islamic world, or the Hasidic world, like those people never shave one time in their life, and so like
Wait,
just to
wait,
shave
Hasidic.
once,
Your kind of Jews don't shave ever.
not once in their life.
No way.
I mean, they're not allowed to
It's like
shave.
Sikh people or something.
Well, I mean,
Sikh
also some
people.
Muslims too, but even as teenagers, they're not. So you have the stubble, you're not allowed to shave it. So if you become more secular, like the stubble just kind of looks weird and ridiculous. So the first thing you're going to do is shave it. But like once you do that, you can't go. I mean, if you go back into the Hasidic world, and I didn't even shave, but even just like not wearing the full garment, speaking in English as a first language as opposed to Yiddish, you put yourself, but you're still within the community. So then the community might have you performing those tasks. Like I was a driver.
Wow.
I speak to counter Semites. They
Sure.
they put it
We
in.
better get on to the main topic. I just want to. I was very
Just
interested
I
in
used to
this
shake
thing.
hands for Gentiles from Hasidic Jews that didn't want to shake hands for Gentiles. So like my job, and like they actually told me, like I mean there's multiple reasons, but like the rabbi does not like shaking hands with people, and like my job was to protect him from having to shake hands with people
Okay.
like that. And
All
so there
right.
might be
Okay.
certain
Sure.
religious things to anybody other than Hasidic, it would just seem like ridiculous. But like if you
Yeah.
thought like my job was really just to shake hands with people that they didn't want to shake hands with. And I
That's
would guess
funny.
in the Muslim community, there's
But
probably
let's
some
pause there.
counterpart.
Let's pause. Let's get on to the main topic. I was just generally interested and developing my
It'd really
knowledge
be
of
like
that
me
area.
talking with you. Like they don't want to talk
Yeah.
with you, so they outsource it to someone
Yeah.
like me. And not because
Sure.
necessarily you're a bad guy, it's just not what Jews do. Jews don't have
Yeah.
conversations with Muslims like this.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Interesting. I mean that you say that, but I know in Israel, Ahmadi Muslims have loads of
Like
conversations with the
businessmen do.
rabbis.
Rabbis don't. So like adult
And
Jewish
we bring them, no,
businessmen.
not as a business though. We have rabbis and whatever. Maybe they don't have it all the time, but
Yeah, I mean, they send someone like me and they call me a rabbi, but I'm not, it's just like, no, he's not really
okay,
a rabbi. But when
maybe
they
you're
have
right.
something like that, they send someone like me to it. And
But
then they'll
we
call me a
do have a lot
rabbi.
of interfaith meetings and whatever in Israel amongst Ahmadi Muslims and
It's
Jews.
it's important
But
to
maybe this is
understand.
also secular Jews as well.
It's
Yeah.
important to understand because interfaith it's forbidden. So
Really?
like
Wow.
I mean it's been it was in the 1956 it was officially forbidden.
Wow.
So saying like
So it must be so.
they literally outsource it to someone like me, and like I'm not
Mm,
a real rabbi, but like I'm a rabbi for interfaith that they trust to somewhat accurately translate what they're saying. And it's like not like
sure.
businessmen speak to like the community, just like interfaith. It's like no, like I believe this is true. I'm not really interested in hearing your side of it. I mean, no offense. But
Interfaith is
like
not
at any
changing your
level, even
opinion
Muslims,
necessarily.
I mean,
It's about
interfaith is just
like
forbidden like that. I can't allow you a platform to put your idea on the same stage as because there's only one truth, and the truth
okay,
is the
yeah.
religion I'm representing. Into like, okay, here's my turn, and now here's your turn, where you present your truth like it's equal to mine. I mean, most people, not just ultra Orthodox Jews, extremists, it's forbidden because you're not allowed to let someone else represent their truth like it's equal to yours.
Okay, let's move on to the next main topic. People who've been watching my streams know that I'm doing a series about. Well, the general idea is we're trying to connect people rather than divide people in these streams. I do it with Catholics. I do it with you as a Jew, and different, well, clear agnostic. And we're talking about what we've got in common. Maybe we don't. Let's see what Nick has to say. He's Catholic, very popular.
It's like, it's enough it makes you want to convert to Islam, and I don't. But like Muslims are straight up right about women. The East is, this is why the West is fucking dying. The West is dying because we are simp. We are being bossed around and controlled by women, even when we're not. Psychologically, we are.
He's got a point.
When you were growing up, Albanian culture, what was the role of women in the household?
Bro, they used to serve the men, and they would very slowly go out back like this. They wouldn't even turn their back to the men, just in case they want a cup of coffee.
And how would you ask her? Would you like,
Get it?
are you serious? I mean, that's just rude, man. Like, I don't like that.
Joking.
Okay. So the topic here is Islam right about women? Historically, in the West, Muslims have been made fun of for their views on women and how women should be dressed and how women should relate to men and things like that. And now it seems to be turning full circle. Like people are going, whoa, we did the liberal experiment. That didn't work. Relations are terrible. Let me just quickly talk about what Islam says about men. I mean, men and women together, especially women and their role. I always put a link in the description for references, but basically it says men are guardians, which means leaders, protectors, and providers over women, because God has made them excel others and have given them particular qualities so that they work and they spend of their wealth and take care of families. And good women are those who are obedient and humble and take care of the belongings. That means including the children, the property, and even themselves and their own chastity, right? So that's basically men lead the family, but they're kind leaders and they're shepherds and responsible. They're not supposed to abuse women. It's a big responsibility to be a leader. But for that to work, women have to listen and obey, and it's for their own good even, because men have been given special abilities to make more logical choices. And as I've said before in my previous streams, when this guy was sort of joking, these are two Muslim converts on the bottom. This guy was joking about, being rude to women and telling them exactly what to do. I mean, men do get to tell women what to do when it's necessary, but they're not rude. And in Islam, we respect women a lot. There's a famous saying of Prophet Muhammad when somebody came to him and said, who should I love the most after the Prophet, God and the Prophet? And he said, your mother. And who should I love after that? And he said, your mother again. And then the Muslim said, who should I love after that? And the Prophet said, your mother again. 3 times. Okay. And then he said, then you can love your father and then next of kin, right? So with that introduction, first question is, you've done a lot of what we might call interfaith discussions and things in the past, I think, here with me and other people. What is that what you understood of the role of women in Islam? Because that's the obvious first question. Like, are Muslims right about women? What are Muslims right about? Like, is that what you understood? Is there anything I've missed that typically you understand about the role of women in Islam?
Yes, I mean, basically it's the same as in traditional Judaism. I mean, even traditional Judaism might have a little bit more leeway for change and liberalization, but only a little bit more. And then traditional Judaism has been in the West, basically the whole time of the liberalization of feminism and various factors. However, we discussed multiple times, like if you're just talking about traditional Judaism or Islam, you largely need to completely reject the modern world or to make some sort of concessions to the modern world that allow you to keep aspects of your tradition, but you have to moderate your tradition for the modern world. And then you get into the question of,
I just wanted to start off with, is that
you get into the question of
none
best
of that
practices.
surprised you?
What's the role of best practices versus tradition? I mean, both Islam and traditional Judaism have mechanisms to incorporate best practices into it. But I mean, from the Western perspective, like, no, I mean, there's nothing more wrong about women and even homosexuals than Islam or traditional Judaism. If you're a traditional Jew in America, you are always the bad guy in the media. There's never, on a
Yeah, I
rare
know.
occasion, but it's largely because of this view that you said about women. And more often, like the homosexual thing is like more visceral. It's like these people hate
Mm.
gays, or like these people hold back their women. And um, within American culture, the biggest criticism of Orthodox traditional Jews is how they treat their women. So in that,
Mm.
you have a few people like we could go the other perspective too. So outside of that tradition, it's really too much for me to ask for to marry a virgin, or even to have a woman who's not going to cheat on me, or even to be guaranteed that the child's going to be my own. And that
Yeah,
catastrophic. Well, you as a you say
yeah,
that's completely unacceptable. Like, why would I
yeah.
ever? That's why I'm not married and don't have children. But because like the modern society, legally, I can't require that. Like, I mean, my wife has. If I was married, my wife has the legal right to cheat on me. Like, and according to Western law, I mean the
Mm.
only penalty for cheating on you is a grounds for divorce. And even like
So that's why
paternity.
you haven't married, because you can't find a traditional Jewish woman to marry you.
Well, because I'm only a half Jew, and even though I went to top Jewish schools, served rabbis, studied, know the books very good, it's somewhat like a hereditary. I mean, cult's a strong word, but it's too difficult. I can't actually do it. Like, there's too many rules. Like, do you pray 5 times a day? Do you follow all these rules of Islam? You try your
Mm.
best. You were raised doing it, and it's saying
Mm.
like it's really just too difficult for me to be an Orthodox Jew. I know how to do it. I've read the books,
So to
but like,
get a decent woman, you need to be Orthodox. You can't be, what's the other category?
I mean, you're
Slightly
using the
flexible.
word decent. I'm just saying to get a virgin that's likely to not cheat on me and bear my children, which an Orthodox Jewish woman would be likely to do. I mean, even that is not guaranteed. But like,
Yeah.
in the secular world, even it's very difficult to even find a woman, date a woman that's not too strenuous for you to ask her to not have sexual relations with other men.
Well,
And so you
yeah.
need, like, I mean, the level of,
I mean, yeah, for Muslims, that's like shocking. You just can't go around having sex with different people, and you're expected to at least try to be a virgin or something.
I mean, that's why Islam is, no one in the West wants to turn back to Islam, in the sense you have a few people like like on the right wing, in the sense is like, no, you like, men don't get to decide what women do. And in that
Mm.
and
Well,
that
actually, they
includes,
traditionally did, and it was considered good for women that your
yeah, I know that
dad,
traditionally,
as
but I'm
your
saying
man,
legally,
your men is okay. Your
legally in the
dad is a
US,
man.
if your wife cheats on you and you beat her for cheating on you, she did no crime, you did a crime. She was allowed to cheat on you. It wasn't illegal. And if you
Mm.
laid your hand on
Yeah,
her,
but it's
that's
about
a
how
crime.
they're brought up in the first place, right?
That's the law. That's the law. That should,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
in
We're talking,
Dearborn
you know.
and you're a Muslim and your wife cheats on you and you beat her, you could be arrested, not her.
Yeah, sure,
If
I
you're a
get it.
Muslim living in
Yeah.
the West, that's the law that
So
you
that
must
means,
abide to.
so you can't find a decent
Not
woman,
just a Muslim,
basically,
anybody.
amongst
I'm
Jews.
saying that's just, well, no, I'm saying that that's like the rise of the manosphere. The law is set up in that way. You could try, but like, it doesn't matter how angry you get, your wife, your girlfriend has a right to cheat on you, and you have no right to
Wow.
discipline or punish
So
you
is that what
within
you're
the law of
scared
the
of?
West. And if you do, you are putting yourself at risk of
So are
being on
you
the bad
scared
side of
that
the
you
law, no
are
matter
you
what you think God.
scared? Sure, sure. Are you scared that if you get a Jewish woman who's not 100% Orthodox, whatever, she might cheat on you?
Well,
Forget the law. Like,
I mean, just
what's the
if you put in
expectation of
I mean,
women
I
that?
mean, certainly at my age, but even when I was younger, even like in college, the chance of getting a secular Jewish woman that's a virgin is low.
Yeah.
And then even saying like, no, it's the society. If even if you find the right woman and you talk with her and she says something and she feels a certain way, if at any point over your lifetime she changed her mind, the law is set up. Like if you marry an American woman, it doesn't matter what you agree with her, what you say when she marries. If she changes her mind a year later, the law favors her.
Hmm.
So like to some
Okay.
point, he was like, well, I made a commitment and she
you know
was, I thought she was going to keep it for the rest of her life. But if she doesn't, the law favors her.
Okay. So the reason why I'm talking about it, and I think the reason why Nick Fuentes is talking about it, he's saying like he's tired of women controlling men, basically. And how do they do that? They just do it by not playing their part. Okay. So what I'm trying to get at, and the reason why I brought this topic up is
Why don't they do it by controlling? I mean, even say sex or something to like controlling sex is minimal. Maybe they do it through controlling reproduction. In the sense,
let me put it this way.
if you're an American, you want to, say marriage or but you just want a woman to bear your child.
Yeah.
How do you enter upon that agreement? And so if you're Orthodox Jewish,
let me put it in a really short way.
You just do it according to traditional means, as opposed to if you're secular, there's really no method to do it. And at the end of the day, you're going to fall upon the law, which
but let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. And I'm going to try to keep it short. I think Western men are being emasculated. They don't feel like they can be masculine in this kind of setup where women won't listen to them. And I can see it all over the West. The suicide rate for men are going up. Okay. They don't seem to stand up for anything anymore because they're not sure of anything. And I think you have been emasculated in many ways by saying that you cannot find a good wife. Like they've limited your ability to have what you need to have as a human being, as a man, I should say. And also they're kind of controlling things. But also I would even say that it's not a masculine thing to be able to say, I can't find a woman. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to go and do it. Like if I couldn't find one where I am in Jordan, I went to Ghana.
Switch between saying finding a woman and finding a wife. There's a difference between finding a woman, finding a sexual partner, and finding a wife.
We're both religious. We're talking about wife.
Finding a wife is much different than finding a woman or a sexual partner. It's much more difficult.
Yeah, I get that. I'm talking about a wife. So, do you think you have been emasculated in some ways because you have not been able to find a wife, and generally are men being emasculated, Western men being emasculated? They seem, in my opinion, very weak from a Muslim perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting it in a pejorative, because like if Muslims in the West are the same, I mean, it's the rules-based system. I mean, because you're basically saying for what you define as a man in the West is illegally criminal.
No, but forget that.
This thing, the only way for
we manage. It's not criminal.
Is to be a criminal that would potentially or likely land me behind bars. That's the current state. And you can look through the history or how to blame and to say, what does it mean to be a man? There's no arranged marriages. There's no real structure, tribal, to have you meet women. At best, you meet women at your place of school, usually public school as a kid, or at school or workplace. And eventually there's like the meat market, there's technology. And to some extent, I don't call the system. I mean, there's some ways the system favors women, and what you define as manly is, in fact, largely just illegal here.
Okay.
And so you want to say you want to be, and to some extent, African Americans are like that in some respect. That they will.
Tell me exactly, precisely what's illegal.
They will
expect a virgin.
They will care more about their sense of manliness than the law.
I think I'm trying to get to points really quickly. You're saying to expect a virgin is illegal when you get married.
I'm saying to expect a virgin. I'm saying just get
an expectation.
A virgin, to find a virgin on the dating market is very
I
difficult.
get that, but you're saying illegal. That's a different word.
I didn't say illegal. I mean, because I said the aspect of it, like your wife has rights. Your wife has the right to cheat on you. There's nothing you can do, any form. If you move to America and your wife cheats on you, anything you do is a crime. Like, you can't slap her. You can't.
But I want to
you can
ask
try to
you at a
divorce her.
personal and an emotional level, do you feel emasculated in any way because the whole societal setup doesn't seem to be working for you? It's not fulfilling your needs as a man.
No, I don't feel. I mean, I feel a failure as a man. That I failed to find the right woman. I failed so far.
That's the same as being emasculated. Failure as a man is emasculated.
No, I mean, just being single. No, I mean, I would say the opposite, because largely I stay chaste, and I mean, you're giving a different. You're like emasculated in the sense that to have my unbridled sexual freedom. I mean, so in America, the more emasculation Muslims want to emasculate people in the sense, because emasculation means like just not being able to do live according to my physical fantasies, which to a large extent you can. There is the meat market, there are the orgies, there is sex is very popular here. It's not that difficult to just become sexually active, and from that perspective, Muslims want to limit that.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. So you're saying you're not emasculated because you've got a choice. I'm not saying
marriage itself is emasculating. I mean, from the American perspective, you have the extreme masculinity level to. I mean, I could accept your argument, but I'm just saying from a more extreme American societal level, it's actually marriage that emasculates people.
That's if you have the Western idea of marriage, which is you're equal partners, and often women tell you what to do. But the Muslim idea and the Jewish idea is very different of marriage, which is men run a marriage. They're in charge.
Well, if it emasculates you in the sense of your unbridled animalness, is that like once you're married and have children, you like, as opposed to masculine in America and Hollywood is free sex. Like it's not being a responsible man that takes care of his wife. You're hindered by your marriage. Like, you can't just go out and have sex tonight.
Okay, let me ask you, because I want to ask questions.
Unbridled, fully masculine man who's not hindered by marriage could just go out and have sex tonight with whoever.
Sure. Do you think that makes you more masculine if you're having sex with a prostitute? Let me complete my point.
And generally,
if you're having sex with a prostitute,
the more sexual partners you have, the more masculine you are. So marriage emasculates you in the sense of preventing you from your full masculinity.
Yeah, okay, I get what your point is, but let me put it the other way around. If you're having sex with a woman has had sex with loads of other people and will continue with having sex with other people, isn't that a sort of emasculation? Because emasculation, a masculine man said, "This is my woman. I have sex with her. Nobody else has sex with her." Prostitute is free. Anybody can have sex with her.
I mean, because it's been law for so long.
I don't think men feel confident that way.
It's even worse than, say, like multiculturalism and immigration. It's like, oh man, the 1965 Immigration Act, if we could just go back and change that. If you're talking about these laws in the West,
I'm just saying, how do you feel about it? Not just what the laws are.
This has been law for over 100 years. The society has adapted to it in the sense, like, I didn't wake up and like how I felt about it. That's the way society's been for over 100 years. And the point, like, most people in the West do largely agree that women should be autonomous and have full rights.
Okay,
and very few people are pushing.
Nick says that women want to be dominated by men. That's their natural urge. He quotes these sex rape fantasies and whatever. I totally agree. I don't think women want to be raped, but women want to be dominated in sex. That's my experience, right?
That's the most controversial line in the Bhagavad Gita.
Cool. What's your opinion? Do you agree, yes or no? Let's start with a yes or no. Do you agree with that? Women want to be dominated in sex and even generally want to be led by men. Would you say yes or no? And then you can give a longer opinion.
I maybe promiscuous women do. I mean, your average women, no, but like promiscuous women, yes, like more often than not. Like
I would
non-promiscuous
say
women,
good traditional women want to be
non-promiscuous
dominated.
women less often, less often. More promiscuous women more often.
Okay, that's really weird that you say that, because I'm sure a traditional Orthodox Jewish woman is happy and wants men to lead the way in the family. Okay. And yeah, so it's a bit odd that if you want a man to lead you, you would not want him to sort of dominate and rule and be a leader. That's a bit
Well,
odd to me.
I mean, even most traditional Jewish women, they want a man to provide for them, not necessarily like lead them. And saying even if the women's going to lead the house, so even if they accept the domain that most matters of house are the woman's domain and most matters of the external world are the man's domain, but the
Yeah,
difference
because the
is,
man lets them have that domain,
yeah, but I'm
right?
saying the
But as
difference
soon as
is
there's a
the
problem,
man's domain.
like,
The woman is not even really that familiar with the man's domain as where the man is
yeah, but
familiar
at
with
the
the
same time,
woman.
if they're buying
And the women
furniture, right?
almost never deal with the outside world, and the man's domain is where the man lives within the house in the woman's
Sure.
domain.
No, but I don't want you
And the man
to.
is
I feel
used to
like you're
living
not.
according to female rules. The
Yeah.
woman is not used to living according to male rules.
Do
Like
you think? Okay.
a man could live according to female rules. It's very difficult for a woman to live according to man's rules.
Okay. Fine.
I mean, I don't
Okay.
agree. Like
So
you go into your house and your wife tells you like a bunch of things, like do this, do that. It's pretty easy. Like, okay, fine. As opposed to like if
no,
you're going
but
to go
okay.
out,
Let's
and
see where
it's
there's.
going to be much more
Okay. Let
difficult
me
for you to
try to
your,
give me really short
teach your wife
answers
like
on.
business or how to operate in a man's role.
Let me give you scenarios, and I want you to give me a short answer, right? Okay. They're in a shopping mall, whatever. This is a scenario where there's an overlap of the two worlds, right? Okay, where they're buying a sofa. There are two sofas, okay, and you just said women don't want to be necessarily led, okay, but it from a
Provided
Muslim
for.
perspective, there's two
Like you
two
pay for the
sofas, and
couch, I choose it. Your job
no,
is to pay for the couch that I choose.
is that what you think? The woman will boss the man and say, "You buy the couch that I want you to buy," and the man is saying, "No, I want the cheaper couch. No, thank you." If it was me, my
It
wife
depends, but
would
I'm just
never
saying
be
the
able to tell me
pushback
what to
on the
buy.
area, like women don't want to be led. They want to be provided for and made safe. And within their domain,
Mm.
I would say they actually do want to lead, like at least in terms of like their
So you're
domain. They
telling
would,
me
rather lead than be led.
Jewish law and Islamic law is against human nature and women's nature, okay? And women
Okay,
don't
Jewish law
want
and Islamic
this
law
kind of
largely
setup
gives the woman
where
the
men
domain of
lead.
the house. Jewish and Islamic law largely
No,
gives
but
the
I'm saying there's
decision-making
overlaps in
capacity
the
of the house
domain of
to
the
the
house
woman.
because men live in the house, right? Okay, and I just gave a scenario where there's an overlap and there's a clash, and I'm saying in that clash, because men lead, they decide which sofa is bought, right? That's what would happen in a Muslim household. That's the nature of the Islamic law. But you're saying that women don't want to be led, and that means you're saying Jewish teaching and Islamic teaching is against human nature, that they don't want it, even though the Jewish and Islamic law says it should be done. I disagree with
I'm
you.
not sure. I did you have a verse that says women want to be led, so I'd have to think in if there's a verse or rabbinic statement about the psychology. But my
So
initial
I'm kind of
would be like,
surprised.
no, I'm not even sure that there's a verse or even in the Quran that says women like naturally want to be led, at least in all domains. And I'm not even sure you're right in like Islamic law, like the man's word is final for every single decision, any issue. If there's a dispute, the man decides.
Well,
Like I mean,
if they're
could be
in
if there's,
charge,
like, a
they're in
dispute, but,
charge.
like,
You don't have
I don't
to.
even think that's the case in Islamic law.
But this verse I quoted basically says that if men are in charge, right? So that's it. Simple. It doesn't have to be like reiterated 100 times. But
I mean,
like,
there's
do you
certainly
not think
verses
that
in the Bible or other
let me
statements
ask
that
you.
give women a certain domain, like even in how to raise the child, and even to some respect, that's the whole Islamic Jewish split off of Ishmael and Isaac, is that Sarah thought that Ishmael was the like concern for Isaac. Ishmael's a bad influence on Isaac. You got to kick him out of the house. In that respect, God, at least in the Jewish version of the Bible, sides with Sarah in terms of the raising of Isaac. Where I mean, I'm not sure the Islam maybe doesn't agree, but I mean, in the Jewish tradition, you have these biblical stories regarding how to raise the child, where God seems to side with the women. I'm not sure if the Islamic account rejects the like the Sarah in Ishmael or the Isaac or the Jacob and Esau accounts where God sides with the women over the man. Sarah.
I'm trying to think of an equivalent.
I mean, it's so forefront in the Bible, at least in terms of how to raise the child. And there's certain cases, but like if you and your wife have a disagreement of how to raise the child, you're saying in all circumstances, you're like no, the man's final word is like no. Even though Islam,
if somebody, if the Quran says men are in charge, then men are in charge.
This is the way to raise your child.
Okay, look, you do understand that you need to have a leader in every situation. Like you can't
I'm saying this. I'm pretty sure the Jewish law. So I'm just making that point that Jewish law does grant out certain, holes where the woman is expected to know better than her husband and have some command of certain decisions within the house and raising the children.
Yeah. Are you saying?
I mean, I don't know if you're straight up saying like Islam disagrees or how you understand Islam is like no, that's only like Judaism. That's not Islam.
Are you saying
traditional Judaism
God's
has that
law? Are you saying God's law, be it Judaism or Islam, whatever you want to call it, right, is counter human nature? Because you're saying women don't want to be obedient. They don't like to be obedient.
Well, of course, God's law is of course, like human nature is the desire to kill and rape and steal. Of course, like God's law is counter human nature. Like, of course, like no one wants to be obedient. You have to break your urges to be obedient. So, like, I don't think women are naturally like obedient. They have to break their urges, and for the sake of God's law, be obedient against nature. I mean, you just.
That's an interesting point.
It's a process. Like women have no process. I mean, and women are to Maimonides, like we discussed in terms of leading women, like, but it's still a process. And women, it's not like women have the power to serve God, and they're expected to. I mean, a lot of rabbis are saying like you have a, your wife. The question's like whether she should become your best friend, and like the if there's a power distance that should always be kept. And within traditional Judaism or Islam, there might be different schools of that. Like your wife should not be your friend. There should be that power distance should always be there. But like on a certain level, even with the power distance, there's really no way that your wife doesn't become your best friend.
Do you think, okay, let me put it another way. Do you think good women, as the Quran puts, they enjoy being obedient because they have a better sense of what is good for them? Just like Muslim.
It goes back to what I was saying about you can't find a woman that won't cheat on or that might not cheat on you because it requires fear of God. The reason why your wife is trusted not to cheat on you is not because of you, it's because she fears God, and not you personally, any person. And it's saying if you're, it's not like, oh, my wife would be I'd be so disappointed or might punish her. She shouldn't. She should fear God. She should know it's wrong. It violates God's commandment, and she wouldn't be able to get away with it, even if she could get away with it from the law and from the husband. That she couldn't get away with it from God, and that's why in the West, without that fear of God, there's really not only no guarantee, there's no repercussion, there's no safe. There's really even no mechanism to find a girlfriend, have her bear your child, and then forbid her for having sexual relations with other people. And saying marriage won't solve that. Even like
that's why you raise
Islam,
the right way.
I feel like marriage isn't going to solve that. Fear of God might solve it, but like Islam means fear of God. But just like no, I disagree with Claire. If you're giving me Claire causums here in like secular Quranism and like Islam or the Quran would solve this issue without fear of God, I was absolutely not. Fear of God might solve the issue without the Quran. I mean, if women feared God, they might not need
Claire's idea
tradition.
is to bring in teachings where you'll be whipped if you have sex outside marriage, which is, I think, a pretty good idea, because that's right. Not everybody knows what is best for them, but you can quite easily work out having children within marriage is good for children, it's good for society. So yeah, it's good law. Yeah.
There's alternative reasons why I've tried. I don't think you've really appreciated what I've said or disagree that part of the international, globalist elite of the West is basically just the accumulation of best practices, and most of the best practices are actually about incorporating technology into life. And that's the question of, like I said, like a successful Muslim, if you come to Dearborn and you want to be a PhD or a doctor, most of those people have 2 kids, because it's really impossible to excel in the West in the high level with more than 2 kids. And it's a certain adaptation to the necessity of living with technology. And that's why Islamic culture, like in Jordan, the Middle East, or something, as a society you could decide how much technology you're going to adapt or not. But like once you're in the West, because it's competitive zero sum, like only so many people could become doctors.
Okay, we've got
You have
12
to
minutes.
compete for it. You have to adapt to technology. And if it means, like, do you want to be a doctor or do you want a wife that doesn't cheat on you? And you might not necessarily get both. You say, oh, it sucks to be that way, but there's structured reasons in the society why you can't really have both. You can't be a doctor.
Let me ask you some questions. See if you can give me some short answers. We've only got 12 or 10 minutes or 11 even. So are men emasculating themselves by accepting relationships with disobedient women?
I would say emasculating is a poor word, because they're saying in most of like the manosphere, they're kind of dominated by African Americans, but they're giving largely advice for how to navigate the system. So you're just like, well, the system is corrupt. The system needs to change. But like,
but it's a yes or no answer. So you say no.
If you're in the
Where
West
would you
right
side?
now, if you're in the West right now, you have to deal with it as is, and looking for a woman in a traditional marriage, if she's not from an extreme religious group that where her parents taught her to look for that, is near impossible. You're just not going to find it. You're looking for something that doesn't exist. So like, unfortunately, I know brutally, that's why I failed in Orthodox Judaism and exist in Orthodox Judaism. I mean, there's good women out there, but the problem is the good women, there's, all the men, it's the competitive world, and it's very difficult.
I think you should go and marry somebody in Africa, because people would be shocked. They'll be like,
"Why have moved to Africa or bring back?" But it's saying like,
yeah, get a wife, go and forget. Would you be in trouble for marrying a non-Jew?
I mean, I put it back. I call it the Paul everything to everyone fallacy. So I think what you're mistakenly thinking that you could do is have the best of both worlds, and meaning like the Western multiculturalism, technology, globalism, and Islamic traditionalism. And like, no, and to some extent it is zero sum. You can't have both.
So you want internet and technology at the cost of not being able to have sex regularly, which is a basic need of a man, and not being married and not having children. Is that your deal? That you're happy with that deal?
The main reason, well, I put it in different ways. The main reason I'm not married and failed as an Orthodox Jew is because I went to university. If I didn't go to university, I probably could have married and I'd be a successful Orthodox Jew.
But what do you mean? What did university do? To open your mind or something?
Well, I mean, to some extent, by saying that the traditional Judaism requires, to a large extent, the rejection of modernity. So, like where I lived in,
you reject Judaism to some extent.
Well, I might claim I'm not rejecting Judaism. I'm just falling into the the best of both worlds fallacy, where the rabbis and the sages said you have to full frontal reject these parts of modernity. And I questioned the sages, like, maybe I could do both. At least, like the sects I were in, university, like the schools I went to in Jerusalem, I mean, and not the ones that I couldn't do. Like a lot of them officially had a rule: you couldn't go there if you had been to university. And
Wow.
I mean, there's certain aspects about. I mean, just say like if you're protected from these things, you could still, once you've been exposed to it, you really can't go back. So like once a woman's been liberated, there's really no way to take her rights away. Like once you've seen, God forbid,
Okay.
like pornography, you can't unsee it. Once you've been in mixed settings where
Let me ask you another
where
personal
men and women
practical
function
question.
together, you can't really go back. So like the traditional Muslim or traditional Jew, they've never experienced that other side of the world.
In your circles, in your Jewish community circles, do they have assisted or arranged marriages or matchmakers? Give me a short answer because I want to have a follow-up question.
Well, I mean, in Metro Detroit, the Orthodox community is very small, and there might be a few thousand Orthodox Jews that, to some extent, are probably like Ahmadiyas, where they have matchmakers and like marry their cousins. And there's also that aspect too.
Is that
like,
good, or do you prefer to go
see the
out
Andrew
to a
Wilson,
bar
Daniel
and
Quackenbush
hunt for
debate?
your own and date? Let me just.
Did you see the Daniel Akakuchu Andrew Wilson debate also? I mean,
I
Andrew
know-
Wilson basically he basically just attacked Islam for cousin marriage, and instead of that was his whole argument. But there is a certain element also where traditional
arranged marriage has nothing to do with cousin marriage. It's just
arranged
stupid.
marriages are usually among your cousin. You usually get arranged to
No,
marry a
it's
distant
not.
cousin. You don't get an arranged marriage to marry like a completely random
When you
person.
say arranged marriage,
You
I've
get
got
an arranged
assisted
marriage to marry
but-
like a distant cousin.
Anyway,
it's just the reality.
maybe
we
that's
could
what it is in
debate it, but it's
Judaism.
like no, arranged marriages occur within tribal distant cousins. You don't even Islam, like
You
don't
don't
have
even
like
know what
you
you're
don't have
talking
arranged
about,
marriages
because
where
you're
you
just
just
making up
get set up with a random person.
Listen, Doovid, you're an academic. You shouldn't make generalized statements like that. Like, I could tell you how you're completely wrong.
I did. I mean, I took in university the sociology of sexual reproduction. I meant like Andrew Wilson, like quoted statistics and studies, and I know like even the Orthodox Society of the
Just
few
because it
thousand people,
sometimes happens with
they're all
secular
cousins.
third-
They're all cousins with each other. Most people, when they get married, they marry a distant relative of theirs.
So now we're talking about distant relatives, somehow related, and they're called cousins. That's just
That's
silly.
why arranged marriage only works within these kind of cultish places, because I'm making a claim that arranged marriages are almost always among distant family members. They're not among. So that's my understanding. That's why the small amount of Orthodox people in this area, they're likely to marry within each other.
Okay,
within
let
their
me
small
ask you another
circles,
question.
and those people within their small circles are going to be a blood, like third cousin, fourth cousin. They're not going to be like a completely different person. They're going to be like a third, fourth, fifth cousin at most.
Maybe I should say I would say more correct perspective on this, okay? Because somebody's got married through assisted marriages twice, right? One of my wives is from Jordan, completely international. Second wife in Africa, no relative, no relation, right? Okay. And it happens a lot of the time. But there are people who choose to marry within or close family, second cousin, first cousin.
Andrew Wilson, over 50% of people in Jordan are married to cousins. And even in some places, like even like first cousins, like it might even be like 20% of people in Jordan married their first cousin. And in ultra Orthodox Judaism, it's the same. Like it's saying ultra Orthodox Judaism, it's the same. Like even
Anyway, okay, maybe you've got a point, because I don't know about everybody, but certainly not in my
even the
case.
rabbinic families, like saying I know, like even like the rabbis of my area, like you got like uncles,
and it's not even that bad. If you like your first cousin or second cousin,
but I'm saying it's part of the arranged marriage, because it's very you might have had an extenuating circumstance or a good reputation or network where they could arrange to marry you to someone completely
because we
different.
have
But the majority of arranged marriages They're not
We've got
arranged. They're
international
arranged by
matchmaking.
your family and your family's, a mom or communal leader, and their network is your own extended family. The network isn't like
Yeah, I've
other
got a
people.
network. Let's
The
just say,
network's your
but not
extended
just me.
family.
I'm part of a community that's highly networked.
Or
Okay.
international. I mean, Jews like
Okay,
that in
yeah.
Detroit. Like, if you're a Jew, you're probably going to marry someone from like, Baltimore or Philadelphia. It's just going to be the person from Baltimore or Philadelphia is still like your third or fourth cousin.
No big deal. Who cares? What's the big deal, right? But anyway, I think
But
it's all
it's
good.
only
If you
an
like
arranged
them,
marriage. Like, I'm just mentioning, like, arranged marriage is it's I would put over
is it good or
90%.
bad?
Over
Is that bad? Are you
90%
saying it's a
of
bad
arranged
thing?
marriages
No.
is between close family. That there
And when
really
we
is
say
no
second
there is
cousin,
no real phenomenon of arranged marriage outside of cousins.
sure.
Even in the Orthodox Church, even in Eastern Europe, even in Catholicism, arranged marriage was always close family members.
I think you've got a very loose understanding or definition of cousin. Like you say, even second, third cousin is cousin, whatever. And don't forget, in these kind of families, we have very big families. So you can have literally hundreds of second, third cousins.
I mean, that you could
So it's
easily
not like a limited choice. They're
find
not
on
like,
a family tree, because like your average American, you can't find them on a family tree. So like if you're
so what? And their
if you're
relationships are
Ahmadiyya from
terrible.
Australia and an Ahmadiyya from Dearborn, are you going to be able to find yourself a commonality on a family tree? Or is saying an Ahmadiyya from Australia and an Ahmadiyya from
Yeah,
Detroit are
I've
not?
got people related everywhere basically now. Especially since you start marrying internationally, then you start having bigger and bigger families, more
Yeah,
connections.
so your average American, when they marry a partner, there's no familiar relation at
Yeah, but the
all, no
average,
cousin, no connection on
yeah,
their family tree. When Orthodox Jews marry each other, even if it's like fifth cousins, they almost always could find their familiar common ancestry on a family tree. And I would guess in Islam, in any
let me just
traditional
throw in this
society, it's
last
going to be the
question,
same.
right?
That's just a sociological phenomena. If you haven't studied it, I'm happy to have informed you of it.
Hmm.
And I'm not against like Daniel God. I'm not against cousin marriage. Like in that thing, if it's somewhat defensive and it's saying, I don't have a cousin to marry like that, and that's the other problem because
You
I'm an
would if you could,
outsider.
right? You would if you had a decent cousin, second cousin, let's call it, and she was the kind who doesn't want to screw around and probably a virgin. You'd be happy with that, right? I would.
No, I mean because I have cousins, but they're secular. So I mean, if it's Orthodox Jew, so
No, I'm talking about Orthodox, or let's just say,
yeah. So I was never able to find distant Orthodox family that we could guarantee were connected on a family tree, and so a match like in.
you don't have a problem with that, right?
Doing this almost a year, there's a few things like that anybody watching. So one of the biggest differences between Islam and a Jewish view is conceptually Judaism largely believes in children being punished for the sins of their parents, which Islam largely doesn't believe in.
Wow.
So in the marriage market, that will also be important because one of the most important on the like internal, very religious Jewish people, one of the most important things is your family tree, and looking back and saying it actually promotes cousin marriage, and then people from the good family trees are actually more likely to marry within the family, and then even Islam or secular society where you don't have these concepts at all. But I mean,
No, we
Jewish,
have
you
some.
have to
Like
connect it to this
people
theological
look at your
punishment of
parents, your
children and
family.
for their parents'
They
sins.
judge you, but no, we have that a little bit. We judge people by their families. We like, oh, how do we know what this girl or boy is going to behave like? There's a good chance because we know the family's reputation in the community and stuff like that. So it's not completely divorced from that kind of idea. One last question. Maybe I should. Oh, Jazakallah. One last question, or maybe two related questions. First question is: do you think women's hair is in any way part of her sexuality? Could you give us sort of yes or no answer?
According to Judaism, yes, although that's Islam is a little bit more strict than Judaism. Like generally, it's only married women, and it's only once they've had sexual relations, and
But the
and there's a
body
little
doesn't
bit.
change. It doesn't make sense. It's either is sexual or not. It when you have sex, it doesn't change the
Well, I mean, because
sexual
the
nature of
traditional
your hair.
it's saying that there's
But
a
you
non.
agree, though, it's
Yeah, I mean,
always
you're giving like a Western atheistic argument. I'm saying according to there's some spiritual transformation that affects the physical. That there's a virgin
oh,
status, and when the woman loses that virgin status, there's some sort of fundamental transformation where she's no longer the same, and it's not necessarily physical; it's spiritual. But
okay,
in
sure.
that sense, from the
Do you
Judaic understanding,
agree?
it's only the hair of although there are also rules for hair for children, and so I mean there's basically complete agreement between the Muslim and Jewish understanding, but in this case the Muslim understanding is more strict than the Jewish understanding, like in the difference
Okay,
being on
married and unmarried. Yeah.
virgin girls' hair is not dangerous, and then there's some form of transformation. Even the married woman, like there's a little bit more leniencies, although in Jerusalem they forbid wigs. So like in America, like in my area, everybody wears wigs. Although
Uh,
like
do
like,
they?
like
This is
you have to get
interesting for me.
to the very very religious
So
that
do
will,
women shave their hair off, their real hair off, and put a wig on, the Jewish women, or do they
and they
have a wig
say that
on their real hair?
that is sufficient. I mean, because Judaism will make concessions on the law for success. So if you're in the West and you feel out of place and you're saying, well, the goal is that you could kind of like fool Gentiles. So if Gentiles think that that's your real hair and it's not really your real hair, but it's not your real hair, then and it's a weird way that Jewish law works, because Jewish law could be adapted for success. So it's like, well, like you want to
Sure,
be a
sure.
doctor, you want to be successful, we'll make these concessions. But like, yeah, in Jerusalem they burn wigs, and it's also one of the big issues, because like my rabbis.
I would agree with that more orthodox view, because what is the point if you think women's hair is sexual and then you cover up your beautiful hair with other beautiful hair? That doesn't make any sense. Come on, let's be logical for a few seconds.
You could give a spiritual, like I said, like my rabbis, the rabbis in Jerusalem rejected it.
Exactly.
You could
Makes
give
sense.
certain like
Reject that.
spiritual, well, like once the hair has been cut off, it's no longer sexualized. So even though it's a wig made up of real hair,
How does that
because
make
it's not
sense?
attached to the person. I mean, so they have explanations or whatever, but it's actually a big deal in Jewish culture, especially in Jerusalem. And it's one of these.
But what about you? Okay, do you agree that women should cover the hair as part of being modest, given that it
Yes,
is sexual?
I'm not. I mean,
No,
from
come on,
a
give me your opinion.
from a biblical point of
I
view,
think it's definitely
there
sexual.
there's
You should
certain
cover it.
laws. I mean, there's
Women should
certain
cover it.
laws which, even if God didn't command them, would be logical and a person should do. And then there's certain laws that are not done
But
because
what
they're
about
logical,
you? What do
but they're
you
done
think?
as a form of submission and representation of, I'm serving God, I'm doing what God tells me, even if it doesn't make any sense. So the question of the woman's hair, I'd have to look that up or see if that's something that a woman has to do because God commanded, or if that even a logical person would come up on their own, that it makes sense that women should do that. And my
I think
guess is it's actually
given
something that
like
women should do because God commands it.
logic dependent premises, right? So if you agree, as you have agreed, that women's hair is in some ways sexual,
No,
and I bet
I
you would
agree that the
agree.
rabbis in the Jewish understanding of the
How about you?
Bible
What about
forbids it.
you?
I did not, whether the case is it forbids it for a reason or just forbids it without a reason, or so when you put a
No, but what
reason to
about
it,
you? What do you think women's hair is in any way sexual?
I mean,
Yes or no?
that's problematic also, because it'd be like near impossible for me to find a woman other than an Orthodox Jewish girl that would cover her hair.
No, I didn't
And so-
ask you about covering your hair. I gave you a second, because logic works in in atomic ways. You state a fact, a premise, and then you work from there. So I'm the premise of it.
I would say I'm
do you think
uncertain.
women's hair is in any way sexual?
I'm uncertain. I could say from Hindu Indian culture. I mean, there are some places in India, even like women who don't wear tops that still cover their hair. And ironic, like like in Hindu culture, that women could cover their hair because it could be sexualized, even though they don't cover their breasts. But I've done enough Hinduism to be around people who protect the virginity of their daughters. And I mean, you're
they
part
cover their
Indian. So I don't know if
And
you've
they
been to
cover
India,
their hair,
but I've been to chaste Indian women that are revealing. And I relatively thought that maybe it wasn't the case, that hair on its own, because
You
myself,
know, good
when I'm seeing
women,
chaste
good
Indian
Indian
women
women.
that even are showing, wearing a sari, showing their hair, I did not feel any sexualization of them. I saw that they were chaste. And even though their hair and they were revealing, I could see them as chaste, although maybe that wasn't the case and there is something sexualized. But I leave it open because the Bible does not necessarily give a reason, doesn't say a woman can't show her hair because it's sexualized. It's just one of these rules that you have to do because God commands it. It's just like, well, if God didn't say murder was forbidden, by logic you could derive not to murder, but certain laws are just you have to do that. So I don't know on that. I could actually look that up if you care, and I would assume that there's probably different views of rabbis, and maybe you have
must have a
experience in India
point of
too.
view.
Is there a difference when you see chaste Indian women that are dressed revealing than when you see hose?
Yeah,
Are
and
you saying like
hose
no,
wear less clothes, right?
the chaste Indian woman's hair is just as sexualized as a hoe?
Okay, cool. So we try
You're
to
not gonna
thrash
answer
out.
that?
Sorry?
You're not gonna answer that?
Oh, go on. I didn't. Maybe I missed your question. What was your question?
I'm assuming that you're familiar with chaste Indian women that
Yeah.
relatively dress revealing, not necessarily in a sexualized way, but just the traditional Indian clothes. And you're saying, having seen chaste Indian women, you're saying you think that because they're revealing that they're inherently sexualized, and then how is it possible that these Indian women could live most of their life being so revealing, but yet largely be chaste? So that's my pushback on
There's a lot
logic,
of
and
assumptions in
something
that
maybe you're
question.
familiar with too.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think in Indian culture, you're supposed to cover the hair, especially Hindu culture. As you probably know, you're
Yeah, I'm gonna
supposed to
say
cover
even
your
some places where the women bare their breasts, they still cover their hair. Even in Africa, there's women that bare their breasts but cover their hair. But I'm just
Yes.
saying. On the other
See,
hand, I have
when
seen
you ask a question and you put
many
lots
what
of
I would consider chaste,
assumptions in it.
beautiful Indian women that I did not arouse because I respected them as chaste. I saw that they were beautiful, but because they were chaste, it didn't arouse sexuality in me. I mean, say like
Yeah,
no,
well, I've
like
talked about this.
100%
I
no, that's
think
impossible.
these are things that you're making a lot of claims about yourself that you weren't aroused and all this kind of stuff.
I'm asking you
But it
because I
wasn't.
assume that you've seen beautiful, chaste Indian women that relatively wearing a sari, showing their hair, but you could say they're probably chaste, and they probably were virgin when they got married and never cheated on their husband. And then like I wouldn't look at that woman in a sexual manner because I would say even though she's beautiful and showing her body to some extent, like I can just see she's chaste.
Yeah, sure. You can act in a way that is so it's not just the clothes you wear, it's how you behave as well. But I think if you some people might lack self-awareness and not cover their hair, but a lot of women, if they would be aware that their hair is special to them, they should cover it. And if they don't, we don't know for certain that they're going to have sex with strangers and whatever. But all I'm saying is you're more likely if you're not careful about your appearance.
I put
Like
in
if
three different. You got to ask yourself: is the woman covering her hair for herself, for her husband, men, or for God? And it could be a little of each, or it could just be one.
Yeah.
She covers her hair for God, not for herself or her husband, or she covers her hair for her husband, not for herself or God, or she covers her hair just for herself and it's not for her husband or for God.
So the question really is if the person who is more likely to be chaste and not have sex with strangers, whatever, is it the person who does all the things to protect herself from other people's gazes, to protect her beauty, covers up her, like doesn't have her breasts out, whatever,
You say in Judaism, she's theoretically protecting her beauty for the exclusivity of her husband. It's not because like if she didn't wear her hair, she's going to have an affair or she's going to get raped, God forbid. It's
Right, but
because
you don't need to go to the
she's
extremes, but
protecting
you
the
do get to the
exclusivity
extremes
of her
eventually.
beauty for her husband. She's not doing it for
Yeah.
herself. She's doing it for her husband. So there is at least written in the Jewish text that aspect. The woman covers her hair for her husband, not herself.
Yeah,
But there's
and
another
see,
aspect. You're saying like, no, men are pigs. Like you're going to get raped or
no.
something.
I'm saying it's a bit of
You're saying like, no, the
everything.
women are doing it for themselves, or like because men like they're not going to be able to control
No, I'm
themselves.
saying it's a bit of
Masturbate or rape.
everything. Why?
Or
Why
just
does a
simple, like I
woman?
said, like God commands it. There might not be a logical explanation for societal functioning. God just commanded it to test the loyalty of humans.
No, okay. This is how I said. Let's bring it back to men, for example. Why do I not walk around naked in public? Right? There are many reasons, but Islam has taught me how not to be a savage. So it's for my benefit, and I'm listening to God because God's greater wisdom, and for everybody else's benefit. They don't want to see me naked. They don't want to be possibly aroused by everybody's tits hanging around and everybody's
Like your
penis hanging
statement,
around.
I think
Right?
even
So this
Islam,
is
like from a Jewish way, you're saying it
non-savagery.
in a heretical manner because God commanded it. It has to be done whether there's reasons or not. And there's probably reasons we might be able to
Let me
understand
finish
the
my point.
reason,
My
but the
point
essential
is
reason why a woman has to cover her hair is because God commands it.
my point. Let me make it really simplistic. If you had a society where everybody had their tits hanging out, right? Those kind of people are more savage. They're more likely. We know it's good. It's kind of obvious. They're going to be having sex with each other and all this kind of stuff, right? Okay,
No, I think that's
rather than a
incorrect
more
because
civilized society.
I have found that, and even studies that that's not accurate. That even Indian tribes, even there are tribes where women go around largely naked and they're still chaste. It's not that like
Hmm,
all tribes where women go around naked are having orgies. In fact, if you
hmm,
looked at the anthropology in Africa and in India, there are tribes where women go around largely naked and they're still chaste. They don't have sex with anybody other than their
hmm.
husband. Are you disagreeing? At least on, I think, look into it. From my understanding, it's like no, like there are tribes in Africa or India that are going around naked. They're not having
The one
orgies.
tribe.
Most of those actually
There's a
have very
famous
chaste
there's a
laws.
famous African tribe where they have their breasts out, and in that same tribe, they're famous for offering strangers their wives for they can
Yeah,
have
I mean, a lot
sex
of
with
that
them
has
for a
been
night.
a lot of that is like fiction. Like I've never actually. There's many fiction cases like of
No, I've
all
seen
different
there's a
peoples.
famous guy called Mr. Ghana Baby. He's a famous YouTuber. He goes up and down Africa. He talks about African businesses. He's been to that tribe. He asked a member of that tribe, and they said, "Yeah, that's how it works."
I mean, okay, you're talking about a YouTuber, but I'm saying academically, those
Mm,
claims are unproven. Like whether a YouTuber, but I'm saying like of a peer-reviewed paper, there are no
okay.
known tribes that
Yeah, I
openly
don't
do
always
that.
trust YouTubers.
And I'm
True.
saying like I have done the research. I know people mostly about India, but a little about Africa, and it's like
Mm,
no, like there are African Indian tribes that have very strict purity rules, and it's saying I'd say the different thing the all tribes where the people go around naked have gender segregation.
mm.
There's no tribe of people who go around naked where the men and women go around together. All the tribes, as far as I know of, that have been
Oh,
located,
okay.
known in the world, where the people go around naked, they have gender segregation.
Depends what you
And
mean by
when they have
segregation.
gender
If they're hunter
segregation,
gatherers, is that what you mean? They're just hunter gatherers, but they're otherwise, or they're literally always segregated. They can't
well, I mean, they might
socialize. They don't.
eventually get a wife and have kids, but it's saying that they, yeah, the men hunt the schools are segregated, or the villages are like we were talking. The villages are ran by women, men hunt or councils. But I mean, there
That's
you
not
don't
necessarily
see. Have
segregation.
you ever seen a picture of a group of native naked together? And I say like, no, I don't think so. Like all the pictures of native nakeds are either all women or all men. There's never like a picture of them together because that's not how they function. And it's saying that just because they're naked, they're actually chaste. And just like the Jains in India. I mean, like the Jains walk around naked. They're some of the most chaste people in the world. I mean, that you might say, like, you think the Jains are secretly having orgies?
Hmm. I don't
And so,
know. I
like,
have to
no, I'm
find
gonna say, like, the
out.
Jains Like, even though like some of them are walking around naked, like they're some of the most chaste people in the world.
Mm.
Even the Jain
Interesting. I
women.
think most people realize, I'll just summarize it like this. I think most people realize if you're more modestly dressed, you're giving off signs that you are not up for, promiscuity, and therefore you're more likely to be chased. You don't, and nothing's 100%.
No, if you're
Yeah,
always
that's
around
my
women,
perspective.
it's saying this. It's actually the gender segregation that's larger. Because if you're only around women, if you think like the Indian women, I never had really. I just never would have approached them because it was a proper society, and there was no reason for me to like approach women.
But those
And
societies that
if the
you're
women
talking
are if
about,
the women are together, no man. It's against rules of a man to approach. Like saying you
yeah,
if you
that's
go
part
to
of the whole
you
system.
need a matchmaker. You can't go to like Africa and
Okay,
just like
sure, sure,
walk
sure.
up. You're not
Let
just
me
gonna
just
like
ask
walk
you.
up to one of the girls on your own. They're protected.
Those societies that you're talking about where they're segregated, do the women also cover their
All of
hair,
them are
generally
segregated.
speaking?
It's only the West. The West is the only place that doesn't have gender
Sure, sure, but you're
segregation.
not
Like
answering my question. Those societies that you're talking about where the Indian women are segregated from the men, are they also not are the women also not expected to cover their hair?
there's a
Yeah.
large variety. No, I have on my YouTube page. I've met like people who've traveled India. So I mean, there's variety. There's
No,
there's
these
but there's
people
both
who are
there's both that exist. Their group in Africa also. There's not they're both that exist.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you look at their tribal rules, like their tribal rules are extremely chaste. I mean, sex is largely considered evil. Even some of the African religions, sex itself is like considered evil among the tribes that walk around naked. So you're thinking, okay, they're walking around naked, but their belief system says that sex is evil, and so it has to be. I mean, you could. I mean, you're more an anthropologist. You've seen more of the world than me. Maybe I've read more. I know a lot about India. I've met people that have extensively traveled through villages. Like I know a decent amount about Africa also. I mean, you could probably actually travel and see these places, but I think that your base assumption is actually incorrect in that many of these people that wear little clothes are actually quite chaste.
I can imagine there might be if they're very tiny
Were you in
tribes.
Indonesia
As
recently?
hard, yeah,
I mean, there's Indonesian indigenous tribes that are naked also.
yeah, but it's a huge country. I didn't go off the main island, so yeah.
And saying you're not going to just like you're saying like God forbid like you don't just like go to an indigenous like find a bunch of naked women and like have an orgy with them. And saying
I don't know.
like they're chaste, like their men protect them, or like
Yeah.
occasionally you might if you're maybe in Indonesia and like a group of tribal women like wander into the city to go to the store and you see a few like bare-chested women. I mean, some of them might get recruited. Like it probably is dangerous for them. They might get raped in prostitution, but within their tribal culture itself, their tribal culture are almost always chaste.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got very small tribes, it's a different scenario. I think they're easier to control.
Well, they're also polygamous in that way too. So like
polygamous is part of being chaste. That's fine. If a chaste is when you're having sex outside marriage, polygamous means or polygynous normally.
I'm
which
not
is a man
I'm
with
not a
multiple
wagering
wives.
man, but I would you might I mean you have to agree with me like the percent chance of a woman in Africa or India walking around naked being a virgin is much higher than in the West. Like the woman in India or Africa like walking around half naked is like much more likely to be a
No,
virgin
actually, I'm not sure
than your
because
average person in the West.
Ghana, where I found my wife, they have a lot of sex in and outside marriage, but it's more the Christian.
You're
to
saying they
do.
walk around bare-breasted there too?
And I was in the capital, and you would have
You got to go to like the rural
kids
areas.
walking around naked, but not women. But women would have their breasts out when feeding babies. They're not too worried about that.
That might be more African culture, more sexual than Indian culture, or even like
Yeah.
testosterone. Indians typically have low testosterone compared to
Oh,
Africans.
really?
But even in Africa, I mean, like obviously, like AIDS or like there is evidence that like there are places in Africa where they do have a lot of sex, and even
Yeah.
like God forbid in America, I teach at mostly an African American school. The statistics are the exact opposite, where sex is going down, but like
Oh, really?
like now among Americans, like only 1 out of 3 people have sex in high school, but among African Americans, I think it's actually 2 out of 3. So there's a
Yeah.
huge disproportion. Like 2/3 of African Americans have had
Interesting.
sex by the time they graduate high school, as where and it used to be like 50%. So sex has decreased among Americans.
High
I think
school finishes at what, 18?
yeah,
So it's illegal sex probably, or what's the
no,
um
it's only illegal when someone has sex. If they're both minors, it's legal. There's nothing wrong. In fact, they
oh,
hand out
really?
condoms or teach sex. It's only illegal when adult. There's no. I mean, sometimes there's another like under 13 or something, but like if 2 15-year-olds have sex or something, it's no crime.
Wow.
And saying it's happened, like or like
I
it's
suppose that's yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's not a crime, isn't it? Even though it's again illegally, you're supposed to only have sex after what, 16 or 18 in England? I mean, in the
it's
US?
they're just the marriage laws, statutory rape.
Okay,
Statutory rape
fine.
is if you're over 18, someone under 18, or sometimes if you're 16 or under 13. But I mean, 2 kids having sex is completely fine
Yeah,
in
yeah,
US in
yeah.
US law, and it's encouraged, and sometimes they teach it and hand out condoms, and but there are
So
there
you're a
are
teacher, and do you hand out condoms?
no, I don't know if they do at the school or not or whatever. I'm just saying that um
I'm not sure if I would
just
participate in
statistically,
that.
if you're thinking like kids being sexually active, like almost half of American kids, teenagers are sexually active. And I would
Wow.
assume that's even in Ghana. Like, I mean, it might be that like
Yeah.
there might be other places like that, but it's interesting because if you're fearing God, like you gotta. I mean, God obviously gives laws and they have a reason, but you can't be too attached for the reason, because if the reason you thought was the law turns out to be incorrect, you still have to follow the law. And that's the
Mhm.
warning. Like even King Solomon was warned in that sense. Like, don't think too much in the reason of the law, because once you think you know the reason, then you think you no longer have to do it. Well,
Hmm.
the reason doesn't apply anymore. Why should I do it? It's like no, if it's a God divine wisdom, it has more to it than some
No, there
reason.
is some wisdom in understanding that God fully understands the reasons why. And even if you have a reason that generally makes sense, it might not be the only reason, or there might be a time when that reason doesn't apply, but it's still useful. So
And
I
then God
agree
forbid,
with that.
I mean, the Talmud, for whatever reason, has very negative things to say about Arabs and their sexuality, like with implications that they're the least of all chaste people, and that I mean
Really?
that could be random beef that makes no sense. But like the Talmud, for whatever reason, it even has like a statement like like 10%, like God divided for whatever weird reason, it said like God divided the world's sexual immorality into 6 parts and gave 5 of them to the Arabs. And for
So
whatever
what does
reason, the
that mean?
Talmud says that like
So
the
like
Talmud has multiple statements that refer
so the
to
so
Arabs
the so the
lacking
Arabs, I'm
sexual
not sure what that
propriety.
means, but you're saying that Arabs are the most sexually immoral people in the world,
According,
according to the
this is
Talmud.
the
According
it
to the
doesn't use the
Talmud.
word. This is what the Talmud says about the Babylonians of the time.
Oh, okay, of the time.
I mean, so you're
Okay.
talking like the rabbinic, stuff in the
Who
Talmud
knows?
from 2,000
Yeah.
years ago. For whatever reason, I mean, you say it's racism, it's false, but for whatever reason,
Who knows?
the
It might have
Talmud
been
makes
true at the
multiple
time. Who
points
knows?
that for whatever reason, like Arabs are the most perverted people in the world. I'm not sure why the Talmud says it, but the Talmud uh,
Yeah. At that
makes that claim
time
multiple times.
and it's still true, is it?
It's just this claim in the Talmud, like some
Is
rabbi
it
so and so in
claimed
the
that's
Talmud says
permanently
so.
true, or is it just true at that time? I'm just
But it's a statement of a rabbi in the Talmud. So it's like some people think that if it's a rabbi said in the Talmud, there's divine wisdom. So if a rabbi said in the Talmud, it
so if
applies
the rabbi says,
to
yeah, we
today.
can assume it's a divine wisdom. So are you saying it's permanently true or just true at that point in time,
I mean, God forbid,
according to
I would say
your belief?
local rabbis or superstitious Jews. I mean, really, it's only like Talmudic Jews that like, because generally I don't know anyone really other than Talmudic Jews who say that. And I think like relatively like the Babylonians were the bad guy, and for whatever reason, like the Talmud wanted to punch on like the Arabs, like that's what they punch on with. And so it is a little ironic there, because like it'd really only be like a Talmudic Jew who's like superstitious that it said in the Talmud it's probably true, because like generally I'm not sure if Arabs are thought to be like so perverse other than these few statements in the Talmud.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. We've had a rigorous discussion as always, and I appreciate you taking out time for me and my little live streams every month. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. You add to
I appreciate
the
this format too, because like if you're doing the same topic all month, then like by the time it comes to me, I've already watched like these other people answer the same questions. I mean, maybe if you put me first in one of the cycles, but this
maybe
time
I tried to.
is like I
Maybe I
was
tried
like,
to make
I
it
had a lot of
different
time to think
for
about
you.
it. I got to compare my answer to your previous two guests, so I like that.
Oh, you like that format?
Yeah, I'm saying where you have each month largely the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
topic
Each month I'll
with
have one topic, and then I have roughly the
like
same
like a real
question.
interfaith.
Yeah.
And then I could compare. So it's not just like, okay, I'm doing interfaith with a Muslim, but it's a larger network with like Christians or Catholics. So now I'm
Yeah.
hearing, I'm thinking
You're
about what
comparing your
exists in my
answers.
opinion,
Yeah.
hearing the Islamic, but I'm also hearing other views and other opinions. And, and that's, I mean, like I like interfaith. That's why I said like so I'm happy to continue. And I think this is a good way that you're doing it now.
Cool. I like to. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. All right. Until next month. Catch you later.